the difference between doing nothing and then taking 5 30-minute walks a week or 7 20-minute walks a week, so 150 minutes a week, is massive. So we have multiple studies, both in terms of nutrition and physical activity, that you can have a significant benefit to your liver independent of significant weight loss. And the benefits of those things go well above and beyond just weight loss.
Now, I do want to talk a little bit about someone who's just starting out. So I know you've given some good pointers. So what I want to figure out is something that is tangible to people. That is something that they can act upon. What are some of the things that somebody can that advice that you would give someone who's just starting out, and how would they create a routine that follows that what you just want to capture as someone starting out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, and I'm going to start with the following. Like I said earlier, the most important thing is what you're not doing right now. So let me give you a brief example of how we can bring that to life, and then I'm going to answer the question more directly. So if you take someone who exercises often, but maybe their diet's poor, they're not sleeping well, maybe, instead of doing that 6th gym day, they use that day to sleep in and meal prep so they can rectify other aspects, right? So that's like a overly simple example of how you could embrace that kind of ideology that I'm kind of putting forward. Now, if I have somebody in front of me, I would say so what's like super easy to do on a daily basis diet-wise? I would say 1/3 cup of nuts is easy, right? Now, so berries, citrus, green bananas, I consider these to be, let's say, some of the more nutritious. I mean, every fruit is good. Don't get me wrong. It really is. And I can tell you something unique about almost every fruit that exists. But these ones have an above average influence on liver health in terms of what I've seen. So if I'm saying nuts are underconsumed and they're good for the liver, and then fruit, obviously, especially specific types of fruit, can you have every day an afternoon snack with a piece of fruit and a handful of nuts? I think that's doable, right? That's number one. Number two is, can you identify whether or not you are someone who can eat a large amount of fish? And if you aren't, can you then consider taking an EPA DHA supplement? And I'm not big on sending people home with 5-10 supplements, but there's just an unalienable reality. Fish is the only source of EPA and DHA. All signs point to EPA DHA being very important for liver health. If you do not eat fish multiple times a week, your prospects of getting enough EPA and DHA are low, and you're working from a deficit, to your point earlier, right? So I would say, can you have a handful of nuts and a piece of fruit every day, right? Can you figure out if you're a candidate to eat fish or not? Number one. Number two, then from there, can you buy a bunch of canned beans, right? Because no matter what you're going to eat at a meal, if you pan fry a bunch of beans with seasoning, put them in the fridge, you can have half a cup a day at a meal, right? You can throw that into any meal you want. You can pan fry beans and canned fish together in a frying pan and knock off 2 of those important food groups for fatty liver for $5. $5 Canadian, let's say, right? I know prices vary in various regions, but like for 5 minutes and $5, you can knock off what I consider to be 2 of the most important food groups for improving your metabolic health. So I would say walk daily. If you're doing no physical activity, I just finished. People who walk are way more likely to be successful with reversing fatty liver. Yeah. So walk daily. It's another one. Take 5 minutes a day. Do deep breathing exercises. Again, 4-second inhale, 7-second hold, 8-second exhale through the mouth. 5-10 minutes a day before bed. Hey, you do it before bed, you get the win from the actual benefit, and then you're going to ease into sleep more readily. Maybe you sleep better. It's not. I mean, of course, I know. I appreciate, as someone who doesn't sleep the best, I know that it's not that easy, but it could help the right person.
Yeah.
So some stuff like that, I think, is where I would start. I do consider. So I'll tell you something interesting. Several years ago, I wrote an article essentially, and I said like legumes, which basically means chickpeas, lentils, kidney beans. I said that's the most underrated food group that exists. And the reasons for that are multiple. I mean, one of them is economic. They're very economic. They're very efficient. They're underconsumed because people don't appreciate their benefits, and they have such a unique profile: high fiber, quite high protein, almost no effect on blood sugar levels, massive effect on the gut microbiome. Like, an amazing conglomeration of characteristics. So I asked ChatGPT the other week, what food group is the most underrated, and ChatGPT agreed that it was legumes. So I'm like, great, wonderful. And obviously I arrived at my conclusion like taking in so much science, which then
Yeah.
obviously AI is able to also take in, right, the population level data.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for food to be underrated, it has to be underconsumed, essentially, right?
Mm.
So I'm not saying everyone go eat 3 cups of beans a day, but hey, if you don't eat any beans, like have a half a cup, it's going to do wonders for how full it makes you, right? If half a cup gives you gas, have a third cup. All
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah. No, it's just
So yeah,
it is. I mean, I grew up on I grew up in an Indian household, and we consumed a ton of beans and lentils, right? A lot of our
mhm,
meals were comprised of that. And I think, going now that I think back, the prevalence of diabetes at the time when I was growing up in India was a whole lot less than what it is now, right? And most of that has to do with the types of food that you discussed at the onset of the call. And again, we're all struggling with that, right? The quick access to the ultra processed and the sugary. And it's interesting. My son came back from he was at the rec center. He goes every day and plays with his friends for a few hours,
yeah,
which I absolutely love. I mean, they'll spend 3-4 hours playing rather than being on the screen. And he wanted to grab a drink there at the rec center, and he just one of his buddies bought him a bottle of soda, and he it was on his way back. I asked him what he was drinking, and he told me the drink's name, and he turned around and looked at the nutrition label himself. He's like, "Dad, I want to just take a look at this." And it had 65 grams of sugar.
yeah,
And my son was just like, "Dad, I can't drink this." I'm like, "Yeah, please put that away." But it's the access, right? He's got that. He's at the rec center. It's quick and easy. Just grab that from the fridge and start consuming. And then these things just add up. It's just small incremental improvements or bad habits. They just add up to big impact down the line over the course of your life.
no, for sure. I mean, and the irony in the situation is that if if your son is super active and been playing a lot of sports 3 4 hours, he's gonna be fine. He can in sports science, might
Yeah,
even say replenishing that fuel is actually smart. It's more so if someone's not expending the energy,
yeah,
having 3 of those a day, which hey, they take those drinks taste good, and there's nothing
awesome.
wrong with them, but it's a game of averages, right?
Yeah,
If too much of your diet is being displaced with stuff like that, it's yes, okay, it's the negative influence of a very large amount coming at you of let's say of sugar, a very large amount, because a modest amount of sugar I'm not concerned with, but it's also the displacement. It reduces the
yeah,
likelihood you're going to be exposed to certain compounds because you know especially with the average person's caloric needs, there's not that much room. Like if you want to run a very strong diet, there's room for maneuverability and curation, of course there is, but there's not that much room, right?
yeah.
There's certain things if you want to run a very strong diet, there's certain things you need to do, and
Mm,
there's quite a few layers to them,
mm,
and the more stuff you have outside of that, the harder it's going to become to bring that to life. And actually one other point that I want to bring up as it relates to blood sugar management, I think this is directly, I think, related to what you're up to, is that for women specifically,
mm,
so insulin resistance and blood sugar management and dealing with that is more important in women than men because generally speaking, I mentioned triglycerides. Triglycerides are a really important biomarker for fatty liver, but in women, the triglycerides are still the most important. But blood sugar plays a bigger role in women as it relates to liver fat content than men. Part of that has to do with hormonal changes and so on, but essentially, good blood sugar management is important for everyone, but it's even more important for women because it predicts liver fat in women better than it
mm.
predicts liver fat in men. So I think that's just such a relevant point, a bit of a digression from what we were talking about, but I thought I'd throw that in there.
No, no, no. It's important to know, and I think that's our audience absolutely would appreciate that level of insight. So all during this course of this conversation, what's absolutely clear across the board is that it's not about overhauling, and you can't really do it overnight either, right? I mean, you've got incremental changes to make. It's about steady changes that you can make one step at a time. Have the right mindset, stick with it, be consistent. I think that's where the overall answer lies
Mhm.
to avoiding it and or reversing it if you have been diagnosed with fatty liver disease. Would that be accurate, Andy?
Yeah, 100%. And if you have I mean, I'll say just two things to that. First of all, everyone operates a little bit differently, right? We all know that individual who goes cold turkey, changes everything, and
Yeah.
then ultimately is able to like ride off to the sunset. But equally, we also know the person who does that time and time again and never finds peace. So a big part of the process is knowing who you are and getting the support that you need. Look to your past. What has and hasn't worked in terms of how you interact with food, how you employ dietary
Yeah.
strategies for yourself, right? And of course, I'm going to advocate for my profession, myself. Like if you have the ability to get curated guidance,
Mm.
right, to whatever
Mm.
extent economically you can afford it, it's going to be extraordinarily valuable because it's very easy to underestimate how incisive a professional like myself can be in understanding what you're doing, what the strengths and limitations of what you're doing are, and very efficiently putting you on a different path. I think that's really important for people to hear who've had trouble either or overwhelmed by the information out there or just have historically had trouble putting it all together, right? Don't underestimate the value of speaking to a professional, even if it's just once.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Andy, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for spending the time and sharing your insights. One last thing, what
Yep.
how can people follow you, the viewers of this podcast? How can they follow you? Where can they find you?
Yeah. No, it was a great conversation. I thank you for having me. Actually, really, really good conversation. Really enjoyed it. So I'm Andy the RD. So ANDYTHERD. So it's just Andy the registered dietitian. That's my Instagram. That's my TikTok. Andy De Santis. Find me on YouTube, which I'm posting there as well. And I've done a lot of writing in my career the last 10 years. So if you type in like Andy or Andy the RD and a nutrition topic, there's a good chance Google will pick up something I wrote. Um, although you can always ask ChatGPT too and cross compare the answers. So we'll see. I came up
Apparently
I
these
came up
days
once on
that's
my own Chat GPT search. So that's when you know
maybe
you
I
made
should
it.
try it, and I think ChatGPT would be like, dude, stop it. You're not there yet, right? I think that might be
Yeah.
the answer. But thank you again. Thank you for your time, and for all of the spectators, everybody watching this. Please do share this episode with someone who might benefit alongside yourself, and follow us as well at Healed. You can find us on YouTube at heald.diabetes, heald.lifestyle. And for more science-backed and empowering conversations, we're going to continue our podcast. We will bring a lot more science and conversations with experts like Andy in the future. So we look forward to talking to you on the next episode. Thank you.